so tell me, how does this work for smaller organisations?
When we set out to launch the call for clarity, we were really minded that this needed to apply to small organisations as well as larger organisations. And that's why we went for things that were really quite high level rather than intricate detail. So for our 3 golden rules, we wanted to make sure things like being able to put numbers after a percentage were pretty straightforward things to do. Never overclaiming your impact is also really easy. It's a mindset that the organisation needs to get into, to be honest about what you're doing. The third one perhaps is a little bit more difficult. That's around auditing your outcomes and making sure that you have evidence for everything you do. But again, once you get into the mindset, it can be quite easy to do within the organisation. That's why we chose these. They're high enough level to adopt and not too complicated.
People working in preventative versus positive destinations, how could they use the theory of change?
So Streetly were very clear about what we wanted to do. We wanted to be focused on an outcome that was very easy to measure. And we did this through conducting a theory of change, where we looked at all of our organisation and what we were trying to achieve, who we were working with, even who we weren't going to work with, to make sure that we came to a result that was measurable, so we understood that. And I think if you're working in preventative work, or you're working in something that's more difficult to measure, like mental health or self-esteem improvement, you've got to ask yourself, what is the long-term impact? So with preventative work around crime, do the crime statistics for the population you're working with drop, and can you measure that? But it all comes down to theory of change. It all comes down to what you are actually trying to do, and being open and honest enough to know that you don't always get it right. Streetly, we get some things wrong, and we need to learn from those, move forward, implement the changes, and hopefully things get to improve.
How much extra time or cost does it take to get this level of data?
Clearly you have to put an investment into getting data of this sort from the organisation, but I would say it's absolutely essential for what we're trying to do, for 2 reasons. One is you're able to then learn whether you are doing something right or not. It's not based on a gut feeling about whether it's the right thing to do. It's based on fact of whether something is actually having the impact that you want it to or not, and if not, can you change it? The other way it's beneficial to measure impact is that it's very clear then to have a conversation with funders about what they're getting for their money. And in this age of less and less funding around and money available, it's so important to be able to show that you are being effective as a charity compared to others, even the private sector, to really give you a position. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. You're talking about investing in things like a monitoring evaluation system, maybe some staff time to look at the data and to be able to show that in a way that's useful to the organisation. But really, if you look at how much money you invest in controlling your finances and looking after and making sure they're all right, you could argue that you should really be spending the same amount on monitoring and evaluation, and those 2 things together become so important.
Okay, so when we're talking about outcomes, it sounds very impersonal. How do you stop it becoming just talking about numbers rather than people?
I think this is a really good question, because a charity is ultimately here to help people, and that's what we've got to keep focused on. What we are using our data for is to help us get better at helping people. And I think as long as you see the data as being about that sort of support mechanism to help you do your job better, rather than it being about purely numbers coming through an organisation and you never meet or understand what the people's needs are, that's right. And we make the point in the annual report that charity should be about helping people who most need that help. This data, the statistics, help you understand whether you're actually reaching the right people, or whether you're just kind of going out there and seeing anybody and anyone, and whether they need the service or not. So I think it's about the data supporting the true heart of the charity, which is about helping people, rather than the data leading that.
Sure that results-based organisations aren't just choosing the easiest to work with to get more numbers up.
Clearly there's a problem for results-based organisations in looking for the easy wins and the returns, and I think you have to really say, as a charity, we're here to support those who most need us. How do you know that? You know that because you measure who's coming in and you measure the inputs. So at Streetly, You know, we would look at things like the postcode that they live in. Is it in the top 10, 20, 30% deprived areas of the country? We'd look at highest educational attainment to make sure people are coming to us with little or few qualifications, and therefore we can really help them. We'd look at length of time unemployed. We'd look at the socio-economic barriers that they're facing as well, so whether that's a housing problem or a drug addiction or, you know, a crime, any of the things that would stop them going into work. And by analysing that data, we're able to understand that we're not just getting the easiest people through the door and into jobs. We're actually helping the people who really need us, and that is the motivation of the charity. That's what we're trying to do.